Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine if your city had a muscle memory.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right, like think about that for a
Yeah.
second. I don't mean that the pavement itself has a brain,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But imagine if centuries of human behavior on like a specific street corner had subtly shaped the architecture or the local culture
Mm-hmm.
and the unspoken rules of that space to the point where those streets subconsciously guide how people act there today.
Right. It's a wild thought.
It is. It as if the city knows exactly which plaza to use when it wants to celebrate or which bridge to cross when it needs to protest. Like
Yeah.
a living organism that has learned over thousands of years exactly how to process human emotion.
Yeah, well, that is exactly what we were looking at today. It is a completely radical way to look at a map, isn't it?
Totally.
Because today we are diving into a really fascinating set of research. It's titled the London Geospatial Historical Dossier.
Which is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Yeah.
But it's part of a broader series looking back to the year 2016 from a future vantage point. So the series is called 2026 is the new 2016.
Okay, right.
And it asks us to look at urban geography, not just as, static concrete, but as a living, breathing participant in human events.
Right. And so our mission for this deep dive is to guide you through this totally new way of looking at London.
Exactly.
We are going to explore 5 major city-shaking events from the year 2016. And the goal here is to prove that London isn't just a passive backdrop for history.
It's very active.
Right. It is an active 3,000-year-old entity that unconsciously routes modern shocks to ancient historically appropriate locations.
Yeah, and I should say,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
well, I just want to point out before we get into it that, look, 2016 was a regrettably polarized year in the UK.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking the Brexit referendum and a highly charged mayoral race.
Right. And we need to be very clear here. We're not here to take a political stance on any of that.
No, definitely not. Neither of us are endorsing any viewpoints.
Right. Our mission today is strictly to look at these explosive events through this totally radical spatial lens and just impartial reporting, figure out why they happened exactly where they did.
Absolutely. So the foundational concept we are exploring today is what academics call palimpsestic shock routing.
Okay, wow.
I know.
That sounds incredibly dense.
It does. It sounds like a lot, but if we break it down, it's quite intuitive.
Okay.
So a palimpsest is an old medieval manuscript where older writing has been scraped away so the parchment could be reused.
Like recycling paper, basically.
Right, exactly. But the faint ghost of that original writing still shows through.
Oh, I see.
And cities operate exactly the same way. We're looking at what they call thick time.
Thick time. I like that.
Yeah, it's the idea that past histories are not gone. They are coexisting with the present on the exact same street corners.
Okay.
So the architecture and the historical precedent of a space create a kind of gravity. And when a massive societal shock hits that, gravity pulls the public reaction to the exact location best equipped to handle it.
Okay, so let's test that theory by starting at the beginning of the year. So January 2016,
Right.
there is a sudden massive global shock, but it lands in a hyper-local way in South London.
Yeah, the David Bowie news.
Exactly. David Bowie unexpectedly dies from liver cancer. And this is just 2 days after releasing his album Black Star.
Which was an amazing album.
Incredible. Which, by the way, was an album that his producer, Tony Visconti, confirmed was actually constructed as a highly intentional farewell.
Right.
Bowie knew the end was near.
He did. And when the news broke, a really fascinating spatial phenomenon occurred.
Yeah.
Because immediately, without any official organization, without a city planner telling them where to go, residents in Brixton started gathering.
Just spontaneously.
Completely spontaneously. They flocked to one specific spot.
Yeah.
It was the Jimmy C mural on Tunstall Road, just off Cold Harbor Lane.
Right.
It's that famous painting of Bowie with the Aladdin Sane lightning bolt bisecting his face.
Right. I know the one. But here is what makes that so strange to me. Bowie was born in Brixton, sure, but he left when he was 9 years old.
Yeah, he wasn't there long.
No, he didn't maintain a deep, lifelong relationship with the area. But in death, the community absolutely claimed him as their own.
They did. And what's fascinating here is how they claimed him and the specific behavioral vocabulary they used to do it.
What do you mean?
Well, the research points out that this street gathering unconsciously mirrored the Afro-Caribbean nine-night tradition.
Oh.
So for those who might not know, in Caribbean culture, a nine-night is a wake that transforms a public or domestic space into a liminal zone.
Like an in-between space.
Exactly. It becomes a grief container, basically.
Oh.
Held open between the living and the ancestral world for 9 nights of communal gathering, music, storytelling, and physical presence.
So what does this all mean then? The community essentially utilized a spatial vocabulary from their own localized history to hold a secular visual for a white rock star who built his entire persona on being an alien.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
That's wild.
It is wild. And we have to ask why they knew how to do this on the street specifically.
Right, why not in a church or something?
Exactly. It's DCers because of the 1981 Brixton riots.
Oh, against discriminatory policing.
Yes. Those historic uprisings deposited a profound layer of communal, political, emotional memory right into Brixton's street grid.
Oh, wow.
So the physical layout of those streets and the generational memory of the people living there taught the community that when public emotion has no official institutional container,
Like a state funeral.
right, like a state funeral, when you don't have that, it goes to the walls. It goes to the pavement.
The street just absorbs it.
Yeah, the city's muscle memory routed that modern sudden grief to a post-colonial space that already knew exactly how to organize and process massive crowds of emotional people.
That makes so much sense. And if you want to actually feel what that thick time is, you can just stand at this exact spot today.
Have you been?
Yeah, I have. It is a pure sensory experience of layered history.
Oh, I bet.
Like, picture standing there in the late afternoon on a cold January day.
Yeah.
You run your hand over the freezing Victorian stock brick where the mural is painted,
Mm-hmm.
and you can literally feel the ambient bass frequencies rumbling from the 109 double-decker bus that's idling nearby.
Oh, yeah.
And that mixes with the deep mechanical rumble of the Victoria Line tube shafts right beneath the pavement.
Wow, so you feel it in your feet.
You really do. And the air smells like this clash of fresh-cut chrysanthemums left by fans mixed with sharp diesel exhaust.
Perfect contrast.
It really is. And just a few steps away is Electric Avenue, which famously was one of London's first electrically lit streets.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so you are physically standing in the crosshairs of centuries of infrastructure, migration, and culture.
It really is thick time in action. And it perfectly sets up our next event, actually.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, because if a city or its geography knows how to process sudden communal grief in January, we have to ask how it handles a moment of profound political consecration just a few months later.
Oh, right. Which brings us to May 2016.
Yes.
Sadiq Khan is elected as the first Muslim mayor of a major Western capital city.
A huge deal.
A massive demographic milestone for London, especially coming off the heels of a campaign that was widely criticized across the political spectrum as being, very racially charged and intensely focused on his religion.
Yeah, it was a very heavy campaign.
Very heavy. So when he wins this historic victory, he chooses to hold his inauguration ceremony at Southwark Cathedral.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to understand the medieval layout of London to see why this location is so vital.
Okay, break that down for me.
Historically, the city didn't just have neighborhoods. It had a tripartite or a three-part cosmological framework.
Okay, 3 distinct zones.
Exactly. In the west, you had Westminster, which was the geographic node of royal and sacred authority.
Okay.
In the north, you had the city of London proper, which was the node of commercial banking and institutional power.
Like Wall Street, basically.
Yeah, very similar vibe. But in the south, right across the river, you had Southwark.
Southwark was what they called the Liberty Right.
Yes.
But what does that actually mean in practice, like legal practice?
So the Liberty was a historic zone that sat legally outside the strict jurisdiction of the City of London.
Oh, okay.
Think of it as London's cosmological pressure valve.
Okay.
Because every healthy society needs a designated space for controlled transgression. A place where the rigid rules of the establishment don't quite apply.
Like a release valve for society.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because Southwark fell outside those normal rules, it was where you found the Globe Theatre putting on Shakespeare's most socially disruptive plays.
Oh, wow.
It was where you found the rowdy bear-baiting arenas, the licensed brothels, the taverns. It was the designated geography where the unthinkable or the unconventional was permitted to happen.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, but I have to push back a little bit on this.
Sure.
Are we saying the mayor's PR team sat down with a medieval history book and consciously chose a historic transgression zone to send a symbolic message?
Right.
Or did the city's geography just naturally pull this historic first to the exact right place.
Well, that is the beauty of spatial gravity right there.
Okay.
The research suggests that whether it was a highly conscious symbolic choice by his team or just a practical one based on, venue availability, the spatial layering effect is identical.
Interesting.
The outcome is exactly the same.
Mm.
You have an act of groundbreaking, paradigm-shifting civic governance being sanctified in the exact space London historically reserved for its most socially disruptive yet structurally necessary events.
Wow.
The geography practically demanded it happen there.
Which makes Southwark Cathedral an absolute must-visit if you are trying to physically trace this history as a tourist.
Oh, absolutely.
You can walk through just 90 meters of that cathedral and traverse 6 entirely different historical periods.
Just in one building.
It's in one space. You're stepping on actual Roman floor tiles, then walking through a Norman doorway, then standing in a medieval Gothic retrochoir. And oh, don't forget the Harvard Chapel.
Right, the Harvard Chapel's in there too.
Yeah, and the sensory clash when you step outside is wild.
Tell me about it.
You walk out into the sharp air and immediately smell roasting coffee and fresh bread from Borough Market, which, by the way, has been operating in some form since the year 1014.
Over 1,000 years.
Over 1,000 years. But then you look straight up, and piercing the sky is the Shard, this, 310-meter ultra-modern glass tower.
Right.
It's this massive visual and physical collision of ancient commerce and modern wealth.
And yet, just weeks after that unifying mayoral moment in the Liberty, that same physical geography was ripped apart.
Oof, yeah.
A city that felt cohesive in May suddenly fractured in June.
Right. The Brexit referendum,
Yes.
June 23rd and 24th. The national vote was to leave the European Union, but London voted overwhelmingly, like nearly 60% to remain.
It was a huge divide.
A huge divide. You had this cosmopolitan city suddenly marooned from the nation that governed it.
Yeah.
And the physical focal point for this intense political tension, the River Thames.
It's always the river.
Always. You literally had Nigel Farage and Bob Geldof battling on the river with rival flotillas.
Right.
Using massive amplifiers to blast music and speeches at each other over the water. It was incredibly surreal.
It was surreal, but historically it makes perfect sense.
Really?
Yeah, this raises an important question about the river itself. The Thames, or Thamesis, has not just been a waterway. It has been a sacred boundary since the pre-Roman Celtic era.
Oh, wow.
Archaeologists have pulled over 600 Bronze Age swords, shields, and helmets from the riverbed.
600.
Yes, and these weren't just lost items. They were deliberately killed.
Weight killed, like bent or broken.
Exactly, bent or broken before being thrown in, which was a deeply sacred ritual offering.
Yeah.
The river was understood by the ancients as a portal.
Oh, wow.
A literal threshold between the living world and the divine, between the known and the unknown.
Okay, so think of the Thames like a psychological moat.
Right.
For centuries, everything north of it was the crown, the law, the establishment. Everything south of it was the wild card, the artists, the working class.
Yes.
So when a deeply polarizing national vote happens, people subconsciously retreat to their historical sides of the moat.
That's a great point.
The river is the only space large enough to hold that level of division.
That's a brilliant way to frame it. The Thames has always acted as a physical boundary dividing worlds. And during the Brexit vote, this ancient function escalated.
Yeah.
It went from being a local divide between neighborhoods to an existential national divide.
Wow.
The research even brings in the visionary poet William Blake to explain this psychological state.
William Blake?
Yeah, he had this mythopoetic vision of London as the sleeping body of a giant named Albion.
Okay.
And for many Londoners, the Brexit result physically felt like that giant provincial Albion had rolled over and suffocated the cosmopolitan city, trying to breathe beneath him.
Oh, man.
The river was the physical manifestation of that rupture.
Man, that is heavy. And to physically feel that divide today, you don't need a history book. You just need to stand at the exact midpoint of Waterloo Bridge. Fun historical side note, it's often called Ladies' Bridge because it was built largely by a female workforce during the Second World War.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a great detail. But imagine standing at the center of that span at dawn. You lean against this freezing cold Portland limestone balustrade.
Okay.
Beneath you, the river is running incredibly fast and gray. If you look north and west, you see institutional authority. Westminster, Whitehall, the Houses of Parliament.
Right, the establishment.
Right. But if you look south, you see creativity. The National Theatre.
Yeah.
The South Bank Center. You are physically suspended over the divided geography of a city that just woke up to find it was in a different country.
It's along like a massive tectonic earthquake, and the fault line cracked perfectly along the oldest cosmological boundary in the city.
That's exactly what it felt like.
So if the river acted as an ancient boundary that physically tore the city apart in June, how does a city heal a spatial wound like that?
I don't know, how does it?
Strangely enough, the research shows it used a digital Band-Aid in July.
Oh, wait, you're talking about Pokémon Go.
Yes, Pokémon Go.
Okay, I remember that summer so vividly. Millions of Londoners suddenly out on the streets, eyes glued to their phones, walking for miles just trying to catch digital creatures.
Everyone was doing it.
Everyone. But hold on, I have a hard time believing millions of Pokemon Go players were experiencing some profound historical connection.
Yeah.
Weren't they just staring at their screens catching digital monsters? How does the research justify calling that a deeply historical experience?
It's a fair question. Usually we assume technology isolates us from our physical environment.
Right.
But we have to look at the mechanics of how this specific game worked. So the sociologist's guide to board coined a concept called the dérive, which translates to an unplanned radical urban drift.
Unplanned urban drift.
Okay. The idea was to disrupt the normal robotic routes of modern life, just going from home to work to the store.
Like breaking the routine.
Right, breaking the routine and instead just wander, letting the city's hidden emotional grammar pull you in entirely new directions.
Okay.
Pokémon Go inadvertently gamified the dérive.
But they were being directed by an algorithm, not the city's emotional grammar, right? Like, the app told them where to go.
Ah, but here's the brilliant twist. The game's developer, Niantic, didn't just randomly place these digital checkpoints.
They didn't?
No, their location database was actually crowdsourced from an older game called Ingress.
Oh, I remember Ingress.
Right, where players were specifically instructed to walk around their cities and tag culturally significant heritage sites.
Oh, wait.
Yes. We're talking forgotten historical plaques, old monuments, obscure medieval churches.
Oh, wow.
So without realizing it, Pokémon Go had essentially created an unconscious ghost map of London Yee's heritage.
So it was routing players on these massive secular pilgrimages to ancient historic sites, physically bringing them together in spaces of heritage while they thought they were just playing a game.
Precisely. The algorithm inadvertently mapped the places where the city's historical memory was the densest.
That is so cool.
It took a fractured post-referendum city and forced millions of strangers to physically share space, to bump shoulders in the exact locations where London's history was most grounded.
Wow, usually we think of screens as things that disconnect us, but this digital overlay actually forced people into the most embodied communal experience of the entire summer.
Exactly.
The ultimate spot to experience the echoes of this is the Serpentine in Hyde Park.
Oh, yeah.
In July 2016, players flocked to this specific lakeside path by the thousands to catch water-type Pokemon.
I remember the videos of those crowds.
It was crazy. It was this incredible shared social phenomenon. Hundreds of strangers moving slowly through the golden summer evening light, talking to each other, sharing a collective purpose.
Yeah.
But the hidden historical layer is mind-blowing.
What's the layer there?
That lake was created in 1730 by damming the Westbourne River.
Oh.
The Westbourne is an ancient sacred stream that was entirely buried and forced underground in brick culverts as the city expanded.
No way.
Yes. So these players, guided purely by a modern digital map looking for digital water monsters, were unknowingly standing exactly where an ancient sacred watercourse physically surfaces from the city's memory.
Wow.
The digital overlay forced a physical, historical connection.
It's the absolute perfect illustration of palimpsestic shock routing. The city used a modern digital tool to route people back into its physical heritage when they needed community most.
It really is perfect.
But that summer of playful communal wandering eventually ended. And as autumn rolled in, the city shifted from healing a wound to fiercely defending a ritual space.
Right. September to November 2016, we moved to Farringdon, specifically to the world-famous Fabric nightclub.
Yes.
Fabric was shut down by the local council after the tragic MDMA-related deaths of two 18-year-old men.
Right.
And I want to pause and make sure we're being completely respectful here, because two young men actually lost their lives, and the ensuing debate about drug policy and public health was intensely serious.
Absolutely. It was a tragedy.
Yes. But zooming out to look purely at the spatial and historical perspective, the source argues that the massive public campaign to save Fabric, which involved petitions, politicians, and protests, was essentially a community fighting for its ancient medieval right to gather and experience transcendence in this exact location.
Yes, the spatial analysis focuses heavily on the specific geography of where Fabric is built.
Okay.
This brings in the historian Peter Ackroyd's concept of spatial repetition. Fabric sits right at Smithfield.
Right.
For 1,000 years, Smithfield has been a site specifically designated for processing intense collective emotion and physical extremity.
Why there, though?
Because it originally sat just outside the old Roman city walls. It was the space where the city outsourced its messy, large-scale public gathering.
Okay, so outside the normal bounds again.
Right. In medieval times, it was the largest livestock market in England. It hosted the carnivalesque Bartholomew Fair, which was a licensed zone of pure chaotic excess and social inversion.
Oh, I've read about that. It was wild. But it was also a place of extreme violence, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't just partying.
No, it was incredibly violent. It was the execution site of William Wallace in 1305.
Wait, the Braveheart guy.
Exactly him. It was also the site where Queen Mary I burned dozens of Protestant martyrs at the stake.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Ackroyd's thesis is that sites that have concentrated extreme collective emotion, whether that is joy, commerce, or sacrifice, tend to perpetuate those intensities across centuries.
That is so intense.
The epoch changes the costume, but the site determines the event. Fabric-Hever's famous Room 1 sound system was engineered to produce extreme sub-bass frequency.
Right, it shakes your whole body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These frequencies literally vibrate in your chest cavity, producing altered states that neurologically resemble meditative trance.
So you're saying Fabric wasn't just a nightclub, it was a somatic, trance-like ritual space operating on a piece of land that has demanded somatic trance-like rituals for a millennium.
Exactly. Fabric was simply the latest iteration of secular ritual on a site designated for communal intensity.
Wow.
When a massive civic uprising of DJs, academics, and patrons fought the council's closure, they weren't just fighting for a business, they were instinctively defending a sacred ritual space.
I see.
And when the license was finally reinstated in November, with new safety conditions, it was effectively a formal, legal re-sanctification of that ancient space.
If you visit 77A Charterhouse Street today, you can witness one of London's most surreal sensory clashes, and it perfectly encapsulates everything we've talked about.
What is there?
Stand outside Fabric's heavy, unmarked door at 5 a.m. on a Saturday.
Okay.
You have these exhausted, dilated clubbers spilling out onto the freezing cold street, completely vibrating with leftover bass frequencies coming down from this intense communal trance.
Right.
And right at that exact moment, white-coated market porters are beginning their shifts, hauling massive animal carcasses by hand through the 1875 Victorian ironwork of the Smithfield Meat Market right next door. The olfactory collision of cold, raw meat, sweat exhaust, and winter air, it's the exact same collision of flesh commerce and ritual that has happened on that precise spot since the 10th century.
It is the ultimate manifestation of thick time.
Yeah.
You cannot separate the modern behavior from the ancient architecture.
Okay, let's tie all of this together. We've just walked through 5 incredibly distinct events from 2016. A rock star's sudden death, a demographic milestone in a mayoral election, a seismic national referendum, a craze over a mobile game, and a legal battle over a nightclub's closure.
Right.
On paper, those have nothing to do with each other.
But if we synthesize the core takeaway from this research,
Yeah.
it's that traditional history views 2016 London as 5 separate, completely contingent events.
Yeah.
But viewing it through the lens of spatial history, we see one unified pattern. We see a city acting as an active guiding intelligence.
Yeah.
It seamlessly routed private grief to the post-colonial wall in Brixton because that space knew how to hold a wake. It routed political consecration to the liberated zone of Southwark because that space knew how to handle transgression.
Wow.
It routed national rupture to the sacred boundary of the Thames because rivers are our oldest psychological moats.
Yeah.
It routed playful joy to the ghost map of its own heritage to heal the city. And it fiercely defended its ancient sacrifice ground at Smithfield.
The city knew exactly where everything belonged.
It really did.
So for everyone listening, whether you are prepping for a trip, studying urban design, or you're just insanely curious next time you travel, keep this in mind.
Yeah.
Whether you are checking out these specific spots in London or just walking down your own local street in your own hometown, remember this. You aren't just walking on pavement.
You're walking on thick time.
Exactly, thick time.
Mm-hmm.
The physical layout of your city, the deeply buried history beneath the concrete, subtly dictates how your community feels and reacts today. You are participating in that muscle memory every single time you step outside your front door.
That is so true. And this raises one final, really provocative question that the research leaves us with, especially as we look at the trajectory of technology today.
Oh, what's that?
Well, in 2016, a digital map, like Pokémon Go, actually pushed people into the friction and history of the real physical streets.
Right, it got them outside.
It made them bump into their heritage. But today, as AI and immersive spatial computing increasingly try to simulate the city,
Yeah.
curating frictionless paths for us, allowing us to experience places digitally without our physical bodies ever being there. We have to ask ourselves a serious question.
What's the question?
If we start physically bumping into our own heritage, do we lose the spatial intelligence that allowed a city like London to process trauma, celebrate milestones, and ultimately survive?
Oh, wow.
What happens to human resilience when a city can no longer feel its own history under its feet?
Wow, if a city loses its muscle memory, where do we go when we actually need to cry or celebrate or protest?
Exactly.
Keep walking those streets, everyone. Look closely at the brick. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.